Good afternoon and welcome back to the Orange Stage. Great to see a few familiar faces back with us. This is the final session of the day at ETL 2021, so thank you very much for being with us, both the people in the room and the people at home. I'm going to hand over to Carlos in a minute, but just before I do that, just a couple of pieces of housekeeping. The best way to hear this session is through the headphones that are on the back of your chair. Once you have used them, if I can ask you to leave them on the seat of the chair before you go, and they will get cleaned and put away for the next show that they go to. Also, we will be taking questions through this session, and we'll be doing that using a platform called Glisser. The best way to access that platform is by scanning the QR code on the screen just behind me. You can also access it using the URL glsr.live/ETL21. If you are watching remotely or online, then you can also access this by clicking on the little plus button in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, and that'll give you the opportunity to ask questions as we go. We'll be taking those questions at the end, so please feel free to ask them as we go through. So without any further ado, I'd like to hand over to Carlos Herrera from vFairs, who's going to do an amazing presentation for you. Over to you.
Thank you very much for everything. Good afternoon and good morning or good evening to everyone who is listening at this moment. My name is Carlos. I represent vFairs, the virtual and hybrid event platform. I really love the incredible energy that we have felt here so far at EventTech Live. Kudos to the team who has set this up for us. Events have always been a space for product showcases and networking, a place where people with full optimism are eager to connect with others and make valuable connections as well as they go. This is an important piece for vFairs as a business. That's what inspires us to help universities, colleges, and schools across the globe in connecting successfully with potential students as well. Now, today's session is going to talk about how virtual and hybrid events are transforming the education industry. As you know, we are one of the top leading virtual event platforms, and probably one of the first use cases that we have done so far has been in an education level as well. Now, let's take a step back and talk a little bit about the evolution of events. We have a lot to talk about, from university open days to university job fairs, post-COVID, pre-COVID, during COVID, and who knows what's going to happen next. So that's the important thing about being informed about how we are going to talk about this discussion in the next few minutes. Now, pre-COVID. Pre-COVID for universities in the past was in person, of course. Universities and colleges were hosting open days, job fairs, and events on campus. This was really beneficial for them, but some of them also had some sort of challenges. For example, limited reach, audience limit. In some point, if you were targeting international students would need to pay a ticket, book a flight, go into a hotel, and actually schedule a time in campus to perform and see. Space and time constraints was also something. High venue cost. In some cases, universities use the on-campus space to do these events, but in some point, they would need to also invest in staff for that. Lack of data tracking. If in the past you guys tried to apply for one university, do you remember that you got like a brochure that was mailed at some point? Right now everything is digital, and the beauty of having virtual and hybrid is that you have everything on the go as well. And low information retention as well from the users. Now, what was vFairs doing before the pandemic? Well, we worked with really early adopters at this point. We had important universities who were using vFairs since 2013. Some of them were the University of Pennsylvania. We had Cornell University as well, and NYU. Now, just to give you an example, these schools had realized prior to the pandemic that virtual events will be a great solution to meet a larger audience and to help them support as well in all those marketing efforts that they were doing. University of Pennsylvania did a housing fair with us back in 2012. Cornell University has done a resource fair, which basically onboards all these students that are applying for this and get admitted. And also NYU has annual conferences from science to medical as well. Now, let's talk a little bit about metrics of how vFairs has performed so far, or all the events that we have hosted so far. A lot of people ask us, wow, so your business basically boomed thanks to the pandemic. The reality is like we were already in the business for 10 years, but during the COVID season, which in this case we will call it the spike from March 2020 until today, we have hosted over 2,000 educational events. 150 universities and colleges have used BFairs. Over 130,000 attendees have attended all of these virtual events. 10,000 faculty staff have been trained on how to use the platform and connect with students. And also, in some cases, for job fairs or for housing fairs, 40,000 plus exhibitors have also been in all of these events. Now, what happened during COVID? Well, for some institutions or some education, universities or colleges, they already adopted the technology itself, right? From blackboards to online courses, everything was already there. So for them, it was probably like the most easiest transition when it come to pivot really quickly to virtual. The pandemic revealed many benefits of these virtual events, and it was a perfect solution for the challenges that these organizers were commonly facing at that point. Just to give you an idea, we will also discuss a few different use cases that we have hosted successfully in some of the well-known universities in the UK and in the US, but one thing was clear for all of them. A virtual component has become one of the main strategies to remain competitive so far. Now, why virtual or hybrid? What are the benefits of hosting these events? A lot of you guys already know what are the main benefits, but we will discuss these based on the industry of education. Now, global reach. Audiences can connect with schools and exhibitors based everywhere in the world. This is really important for those universities who are depending a lot on international students as well. Unlimited attendees. Hosts can invite as many attendees as they wish to host these events. Cost effective. Virtual and hybrid events can be hosted at a fraction of the cost of in-person. No expense on venue, no so much expense in staff in this case, just in technology. And an easy setup, right? Less hands on deck required to set up an event and manage it as well. Secondly, we have measuring the ROI. Event metrics such as booth visits, document downloads, everything is more trackable when you're doing an online or a hybrid event. It is really convenient as well. As you know, we've all been in the mobile era for about 10 years now. Attendees can participate in the event from any device at any time, and it's really convenient for them. Information sharing. Content has a longer lifespan and can be downloaded by attendees at any time as well. And of course, eco-friendly, right? Less printing, less pollution, and so forth. Now, the biggest benefit of this is the increased ROI that these institutions are having. Greater reach plus decreased cost is greater potential of return of investment of any event type. Now, discussing a little bit about the type of use cases for universities that BFairs has hosted over the years, we're going to see at least 6 different of these in the next few slides. Now, we have the Virtual Open Day, really famous for universities who are looking or targeting new prospective students to apply for their universities. Attract applications by showcasing your campus, programs, and faculty. That's the main goal of having an open day. Some of the well-known universities that we have worked here in the UK are the Newcastle University and UCD as well in Ireland. The Newcastle University Virtual Open Day turned out to be a mega success. Comparing it to all the on-campus events, they had a 47% turnout, more than their physical event. The university hosted one postgraduate virtual open day in the morning for the Asian market and then in the evening for the North American market, allowing them to cover different regions at any given time. The second use case that we will be discussing is the housing fair, which is basically guiding these new students on where they will be located during their studies. It could be nation-wide students, or it could be international students. So basically what the housing fair takes is they will create awareness about different housing options, and usually all these real estate organizations that work near campus or on the surroundings will have that option of exhibiting there and replying to any sort of questions or assisting the students as well. We have the job fair, which is really famous with universities, which is basically connecting potential candidates or students with some of these employers as well. For example, the American Public University System, they raised their event turnout to a whopping 147% and received an overwhelming positive feedback from their employers. As of today, this university still uses BFairs for virtual job fairs. We have the use case number 4, which is the conference. This is really common within these universities. They give ideas, speakers, and brands a platform. They will broadcast presentations just like we're doing here today through a Q&A, and they also reach larger audiences as well. One of the most common universities as well that uses this technology for the conferences is Boston University and the Newcastle University as well. The orientation fair, which is basically the onboarding once the student has achieved the admission in the university, it's basically a space where you could have on-demand content, welcoming these students to share help resources and also introduce faculty and clubs with an online orientation fair. Now, Harvard University uses this with BFairs, and we also have Cornell University as well. Recently, Cornell University hosted the last orientation fair. It had over 550 admitted students, and in addition to that, it had about 2,100 hits for each exhibit booth as well. The use number case, and this one was done recently due to COVID and the pandemic, it was basically the graduation ceremony. Now, it was a solution to recognize the hard work for all these students in an online way. Unfortunately, due to the low capacity of other venues, these universities had to pivot into this. And in this case, we have hosted graduation ceremonies for some of the most well-known universities across the globe. We have the EAE Business School in Spain, and we have also the University of Texas Health as well. Now, what about the future? Where are events in the industry heading at this moment? Well, we recently conducted in Q2 of 2021 a survey to thousands of people that have attended BFairs as a virtual platform, and also to different followers and customers as well. So we had a comparison about hybrid versus virtual versus in-person. The majority of the respondents believed that hybrid events would be the most beneficial to their organization between 2021 and 2022, similarly to what we're doing here at Event Tech Live. The other percentage said that virtual events will remain, and it was a big chunk of it. It was 40% for this. And the remaining ones, with hopes, they said in-person events will be 11% at this moment. So the other question that we conducted was, what dominates the future? Now, the majority of the respondents believe that hybrid events are the future of events, while the other ones had virtual as a 16%, and some of them weren't sure. Right, but the moment when we conducted this survey, which was in Q2, a lot of restrictions and lockdowns were in certain locations. But I'm pretty sure that that 14% could easily turn into a 70% in favor to hybrid as well. Now, the next steps for universities and other industries. Well, virtual and hybrid events are no longer a luxury. It's almost a must. And it's a staple in any sort of HR, sales, or marketing strategy of any organization. Engaging a mass audience effectively is the next competitive differentiator as well, especially for higher education. And of course, the idea is to plan now and don't be left behind. Now, based on all these small insights that we have given today, I will give also a few extra minutes to have some Q&A in case someone has any sort of questions within the audience or online as well.
Amazing. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Yes, we do have a couple of questions on Glisser already. As I mentioned, anyone at home or anyone in the room, you can submit questions to us using Glisser. The URL for that is glsr.live/ETL21. There's a couple of questions here. I have a couple of questions to ask as well, which I think should get us through. So, obviously, you're collecting a huge amount of data when people are attending VFairs. Is that of use to universities, and what are you able to give them that they might otherwise not be able to get?
Look, it's basically based on the data that it's captured from the moment the person or the prospect registers for the event, right? So the data comes from content, being GDPR compliant, of course, but also how much of interaction they had within the event, whether if it was by clicks, by visits, by views, time remaining in a session, and what sort of interest or returning of visit or clicks we had as well.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Um, and you did touch on this in the presentation, but do you think that hybrid versions of fairs is pretty much going to be the future? And of the ones you've done so far, which stand out to you as being successful trials and ones that have rolled out?
Look, for us, I think we've done a few. We've done hybrid conferences, we've done hybrid ceremonies. So I don't have a preference as of now of what is the trend or success. I mean, all of them have been successful at this moment, but I do see more inclination through conferences and trade shows to be hybrid right now. And of course, it's going to be hybrid depending on the capacity that the venues will have at some point. So just to give you an idea, we had the University College Dublin. They used the services last year to host 2 different open days with us. And this year they came to us again, but with a hybrid solution because they did have a limited capacity in campus for those.
Really interesting. One thing that kind of popped into my mind while you were talking was around inclusivity. And obviously universities historically have been kind of I don't know, majority of attendees probably from wealthy backgrounds. They've struggled with people who couldn't afford maybe to go to university or their families hadn't gone. Do you think using platform like vFairs increases the accessibility of universities to a broader audience and might actually help with that inclusivity agenda?
Sure, definitely. And as I mentioned, right, for example, if you are a person who is in Europe and in some point you wish for your kid to study in the US, you need to pay for a flight. I mean, if you want to go with him, right, actually, to see how everything's going to happen and if what type of, of campus you're going. So it is really accessible at this point, right, because anyone can access on any of these open days as well.
Lovely, thank you. Next question. In your opinion, what's the best thing about hybrid or virtual events and fairs as you guys have been running?
Well, I see a lot of trends, targeted to hybrid to be more, but a lot of people are a little bit confused between I'm going to do a hybrid event or a virtual event. Hybrid has been always existing. Like when you're watching the Oscars, that's a hybrid event. The only thing is that right now we tag it as well. We see a trend still, more pivoted to virtual. But as things are open up, hybrid is a solution. In fact, we recently developed the app of Beefer is fully launched. So any existing event that is happening virtual has also that hybrid setup on an app. So for events on the go.
Okay, that's perfect. And obviously, there's some people in the room. There's some people watching at home. If they want to find out more information about what you do or the services that you provide and offer, what's the best way for them to go about doing that?
So the best way is you could go through bfirs.com. I mean, we do have different account executives and project managers that are event experts. They will be really customer oriented to targeting to help you to figure it out if it's more convenient for you to go virtual or to go hybrid. At this point, it depends on the scope of the event, the type of event, and also the type of budget that the customer in this case is willing to have.
Okay, perfect. And the final question, if no more come through, we've been asking everyone on the Orange stage today what their kind of view of the future is for their business and for the industry as a whole. We started off by asking what does the next 3 years look like, and we quickly realised that actually 3 years is so long in tech that no one really knows what that's going to look like. But over the sort of next year or 18 months, what plans do you have for your business and for the company?
Well, we do plan to have some sort of integration with in-person events, of course. I mean, we know we've always been a virtual solution. The reason that we are, pivoting to hybrid is because of the situation as well. The people are actually going back to normal slightly. So we do plan to have like an in-person integration so far. But right now, it's really uncertain to know that. Right now, we're focusing on the app. We're focusing on the features of the app, how we're going to keep enhancing that as customers have different needs, gamification needs, networking needs, and so forth.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Well, I think that brings us to the end of the questions that we've received so far. And yeah, thank you very much, Carlos, for a really insightful end to the Orange Stage at Event Tech Live 2021. As I mentioned right at the start, if you have used headsets, if you can just leave them on your chairs to get cleansed and put away for the next show that they're off to. Thank you very much for coming to Event Tech Live. We are the only hybrid show dedicated to event technology. So thank you very much for being with us, and I hope you have a safe onward journey. Thanks very much.
Thank you.